Python programming classes would be conducted this weekend, both Saturday and Sunday. Just like the previous weekend, we will have Python classes. So I think some of you had already taken Python classes. Those who did not take Python classes, you will have class Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m. IST. 7 a.m. IST, both Saturday and Sunday. That means Saturday 7 a.m. means it's actually 10 hours from now, right? 10 hours from now, we have our first Python classes. Then again on Sunday 7 a.m. IST, we have second Python classes, and we will complete Python in this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. And Monday you can take a day off. Monday you do not have classes. You have classes. Next class at 9 p.m. class, our regular timing will resume from Tuesday. So after Sunday, your next class is going to be on Tuesday, 9 p.m. IST, our regular time. Got it? It's clear, right? All right. So Git. Yesterday we had discussed about Git. We have seen different scenarios the developers would work together using Git, right? How to do a commit operation, push operation, pull operation. What are the difference between push and pull? What are the difference between pull and clone, right? Git status command, git diff command, git log command, git show command, right? These are the different commands that we have seen. And we have also seen how you can mark some important point in your software development lifecycle. Right? Git is something like you consider it as a line. Maybe you call it the branch. And at certain points, you may mark some important points in that line. These are nothing but the tags, typically the releases, right? When you want to release your software, you want to version it. You can give the version like 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.3.1, 1.3.12. Like that, you can have different versions. So you can add the versions as tags inside the Git development cycle. The branch, the main branch, which is typically it is called master, and it is I already told you, you can actually create multiple branches as you need. By default, always whenever you set up Git repository, there will be one branch and it is master. So whenever you do a push and pull operations, it is actually the master branch that you are doing the push and doing the pull, or even if it is clone, whatever it is, by default it is the master branch. So it will work, right? I mean, developer keep on working on some development. They keep on changing the source code, and once they are done with the code change, they will update their change to the Git repository, and it's a continuous process. So this will work actually, maybe a single branch, and to which every developer would do the pushing. It will work. It's a good scenario. It will work. Or sometimes the developer would prefer to create a new branch. Basically they want to work on big problem which will take time to complete, and they need to make multiple commits in between. So there are a lot of pending work that need to be completed in order to complete this particular work. So what that developer would do is he will create a separate branch for himself. He want to add a new feature, he call it a feature branch. He want to add a new feature into the software, he call it feature branch. And whenever he will start working on that particular branch, whenever he want to do a commit, he will start making the commit into that particular branch. The other developer would continue to do the commits inside the main development branch or the master branch. So this will happen. Tom will commit here, other developers would commit in the master branch. So Tom's work is in a separate branch. At some point when Tom is done with this feature addition, what he will do is he will merge this new branch with the master or with the origin branch. from whichever branch this new branch got originated, it will be merged back with the original branch, so that now at this particular point, this master branch will contain the work done by the other developer and also the work done by Tom. They are merged together at this point of time, and then people can continue to do the commits into the master branch. At any point of time, anybody want to create a branch, they can create the branch, and later it can be merged back with the master. At that time, whatever change they had done will be merged with the master. So this is how the branching will work. Actually, the branching has a broad meaning. Basically, that is what a DevOps engineer would really be focusing on, right? Branching part, which we will talk about in detail. For now, we will learn how you can set up a branch, right? What is a Git repository? I mean, what is a Git branch, and how you can create a branch, how you can merge a branch. These things we will see. We will take a short look, and then we will explain how this branching should be done, right? That is a very important. I mean, the branching should be as simple as possible, and it should satisfy all your needs based on how your developer want to work. You should do the branching in a smart way so that it would not lead into much confusion, and it would give a good amount of flexibility to the developers. So we will see what are the different branching practices after we learned, after we are done with this topic, the branch. Conflict management in Git. Yeah, yes, Karthik. I will show you how the conflict can occur and how you can fix it. Yeah. So let us go ahead and take a look at the branching. Before that, there is one thing called patch, Git patch. What is mean by patch? What's mean by patch? So think about this. You did a release. You did a release. What is mean by release process? Basically, the change done by the developers, you are putting them into the market, into the production. That's what a release generally mean, right? Always remember, developer always make changes into the Git repository. Whatever code change they are making, they are committing to the Git repository. This code change need to come all the way to your production infrastructure, which contains a number of machines, and this machine need to get the latest code updates that developers have done. That is when your product would become live, your product would become available to the market. So assume you did a release process and then you realize that you missed out something, right? The code have been deployed into the machine, but you missed something. A small file needed to be modified, but some developer did not do that, and it need to be fixed. So you already did the release process. There are lot of change that will take place when you do a release process. You want to stop the monitoring, then you want to make some database change. A lot of series of steps need to be involved whenever you do a release process, right? So you did this release process and then you realize that for certain machines, maybe there are some 20 machines which did not get a update in a very small file. It was a very small change, but you forgot to do that along with the release. You don't need to do a release once again, which is actually a complex process which we will talk about later. What I simply want to do is, some developer here, he will make the change in the file, he will commit that to the Git without doing the release from the Git repository. What this developer would also do is, he will create a patch file from his latest change, whatever change that he had done, he will create a patch file, and this patch file he will apply on these 20 machines manually, which will make the change in all 20 machines. So you don't have to do a re-release, you can just connect with the 20 machines and apply this patch. Then automatically the file will get modified in all 20 machines. So let us talk about it. Give me a second. Okay, so I will show you how to create a patch file. First, let me log into my EC2 machine. It's inside Ireland. I created the Git server, right? I'll start the machine. Okay, the machine is ready. Let me log into my Git server. First, I am going to log in as user Tom. He go inside Tom repo folder, do a git pull command to make sure that he has the latest content. That's what every developer would do. The best way to avoid conflicts are, before you make any change, do a pull operation so that you will get the latest change in the remote repository. Always, whenever any developer want to make any change, they want to work on some code, first they will do a pull operation which will synchronize whatever change is there in the remote repository. The latest change will be brought into the laptop of the user who is going to make the change, which is always a good idea to do a pull operation before you make any change. Okay, now Tom is going to make a change. He is modifying the readme file. He is adding some content. This is some new content. I'm going to save this, and he is going to make the commit. So assume this change is done after the release. But anyway, you can go ahead and do the commit. That's no issues. Git add, then git commit. So fixed the file to be patched. Basically, whatever patch that are required, it is done by Tom. So now what Tom want to do is, he want to do a push also, right? He will do the push. That's the command git push origin master. Of course, he can do the push at any point of time. So there is a change. There's a new commit which Tom had made, and this change need to be applied on a number of machines in your production infrastructure. The machine need to get this change without doing a release. What you can simply do is create a patch file and apply this patch file on the remote machines. So for creating the patch file, the command would be git format patch hyphen 1. Hyphen 1 is nothing but the previous commit. Last commit is what means by hyphen 1. If you put hyphen 2, then the commit before that need to be patched, or the commit uh, before last two need to be patched. So basically you can mention which particular commit you want to patch. So basically whatever change are done in that particular commit will be patched. Run this command git format patch -1. It would create a patch file about the last commit. So if you open this patch file, this is the patch file. You type ls command, you can see the patch file. Open the patch file, you can see whichever files need to be modified. Over here you can see it's the readme file that is added with this much content, a blank line and also this line. This is some new content. So these two lines need to be added as per this patch file. So what I would do is I will copy this patch file in all the machine where I want to apply this patch. Then I will run the git apply patch command, which will actually apply this patch on all the machines. So I'm going to copy this file into Jerry's computer now. I'm going to log in as Jerry. So I go into the Jerry repo. Over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the file from Tom's computer. I can simply use the cp command because in my case, both Tom and Jerry are on the same computer. Actually, they are different users in the same EC2 machine. So I will directly copy the file by using the cp command. Cp /home/tom, Tom repo. Inside that, there's a file 001 fix then something dot patch. This file I want to copy to the current folder. That means into the Jerry's folder. You can see the file has come here. Now I am going to run this command git apply, then the file name. So over here, first I am going to run a pull command on Jerry's computer so that Jerry will be up to date with the latest content. So I am running this command on Jerry's computer. Now Jerry got the latest. Oh, I shouldn't have done it, right? Because Tom already pushed his change. This is Tom. He already made the modification. He did the commit. Then he did the push also, which means the remote repository now contains the changes done by Tom. So whenever Jerry do the pull operation, then automatically the changes will come to Jerry's computer. I shouldn't have done that actually, but yeah. So I could have simply run this command git apply, then the patch file name. Then this patch file will be applied on Jerry's computer, but this time it would say patch does not apply. There is an error. The reason is nothing but you already are on the latest revision from where this patch file was created. So otherwise it would apply this. After I run this command, if I open the readme file, you can actually see the new content has come here. The new content already came here because Jerry ran the pull operation, but I wanted to do it in the other way around. So git apply is the command using which you can actually apply the patch on the machines. So without doing any pull operation, you will get the change done by the other developer. Okay, the next important topic, git branch. So I already discussed about git branch, right? So git branch is, we will see how you can create a new branch in git, and then how you can merge a branch from the master, right? We will create a new branch from the master. Later we will merge the branch back to the master. That's what we are going to do. So first I am logged in as Jerry. I am user Jerry right now. I run a git pull command to make sure that I am up to date. Git pull origin master. Run this command. You are already up to date. So what I am going to do now is, now Jerry want to work on some other issues, some future enhancement, which will take time, which is a time consuming job. So what Jerry want to do is, he don't want to make the changes in the master branch. Instead, he want to create his own branch and make changes in that particular branch. And later when he is done, he want to merge it back with the master branch. That's what he want to do. So the command is run the command git branch. It would show you which branch you are in right now, and it would also show you what are the available branches. Right now there is only one branch, which is master, and that is the default branch. You can see the star button indicate your default branch. So right now it is the master, which is the default branch. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new branch by running this command git branch, then give it some name, let's say Paytm. I want to add a new Paytm feature into the cab application. So Jerry is the developer who is taking care of that. He created a new branch and he want to work on that particular branch. Whatever change that he want to make, he will make the change in that particular branch. So run this command git branch Paytm, which will actually create a new branch. Always remember, all these commands are executed on the local repository, always, right? So you run the command git branch Paytm, then a new branch will be created in the local repository of Jerry, not on the remote repository. The remote repository will be modified only when you do the push operation. Otherwise, it won't get modified. So make a note. So what I am doing here is I created a new branch. Now run the command git branch. It would show you now you have two branches. One is master, other is Paytm. And right now you are in the master branch. As the star button indicates. So whatever branch you are working in, it would be indicated by the star button. You are in the master branch. Now let's say I want to switch myself to another branch, let's say Paytm. The command is git checkout the branch name. It's Paytm in this case. So now Jerry has switched himself to another branch. Run the command git branch now. It would show you. You have two branches. Right now Paytm is the default branch as indicated by the star button. Now he can start making the commits and he can start doing the push into his branch. Now Jerry is going to make some change. Always remember, right now he is working on the Paytm branch in his local repository. He is going to make some change. Right now he has these many files. I am going to create a new file. Let's say paytm.txt. I am making some code modification. This is some code modification by Jerry. Something I am putting, right? He is making some code changes, whatever. Then he is going to save this file. He is going to add this file into the repository. And he is going to do the commit. He is going to do the commit. He is committing to the Paytm branch on the local repository. Always remember that. So new commit to Paytm branch. You can give any command, right? It's up to you. That's done. Now it is time to do the pushing. So always remember, the Paytm branch is inside the local repository. It need to be pushed into the remote repository. That's what you want to do. You want to push the Paytm branch in the local repository to the Paytm branch itself in the remote repository. So basically, you want to copy this entire branch into the remote repository. You can do a push operation specifying Paytm as the branch. The command will be git push origin. Where you want to do the push, you want to push to the origin Paytm. So this is the branch name on the remote repository that you want to copy the local repository Paytm branch into. So run this command. Then you pushed your changes to the remote Paytm branch. This is a Paytm branch on the remote. So this is how you create the same branch in the remote repository. That's what Jerry did from Jerry's computer. First, he created a new branch called Paytm. Then he pushed the new branch by running this command. Then the new branch Paytm will get created inside the remote repository also. Now Tom want to get this Paytm. What he can do? What Tom can do if he want to get this new branch? Tom can run the command git checkout origin slash Paytm. So basically, from origin, checkout origin, checkout system, get a branch from remote. You can actually first create a new branch, but I think there is the other way to do that. Git checkout branch you want into the mod branches. Git fetch origin is the command that you can run, which would actually show you the new branches. So there is a new branch called Paytm. So Tom want to find out what are the new branches that are available in the remote repository right now. You run this command, git fetch origin, then it would show you what are the new branches that are available. There is one something called origin slash Paytm. This is a new branch. It's actually created by Jerry, and Jerry did the push, and that's how it got created in the remote repository. Now Tom want to get this. He can run this command, git checkout -b. You can mention your local branch into this branch in the local repository that you want to check out. Which one you want to check out? Origin Paytm. Origin Paytm is nothing but the Paytm branch on the remote. So Paytm branch on the remote, you want to check out to the Paytm branch on the local. That's what this command would do. Okay, that is done. Now you run the command git branch on Tom's computer. Tom also can see two branches, and right now Paytm is his branch. Cool. So maybe I don't want to do that now. I want to go back to the master because Tom want to work on the master only. Tom want to work on the master. Sorry, command is checkout. So Tom want to work on master only. So right now Tom is working on the master branch. He's going to make some change to the master branch. He's modifying the readme file. First he will do a pull operation, git pull origin master to make sure that he has the latest content in the master. Now he is going to make some modification in the readme file. New change in master branch by Tom. Something he is putting into the readme file. He's going to add the file. He's doing the commit. Change in master branch. And he is going to do the push. Git push origin master. So he will. So basically, Tom is working on the master branch while Jerry is working on the Paytm branch. So at this point of time, the Paytm branch was created, and here Jerry is making the commits, and here Tom is making the commit in the master branch. At some point, you realize that okay, it is time to do the merging. You want to merge the remote branch, Paytm, with the master. Tom want to do that, or Jerry want to do that. Anyone can do that. This merging. The command would be first you make sure that you are in the master branch. Git branch command would show you which branch you are in right now. You are in the master branch. Run this command git merge Paytm. So this command what it does is whatever change which are available in the Paytm branch would be merged with the master. It will ask you to add some command. You can add some command. Merging branch Paytm something. Branch Paytm because Jerry completed his work. Some command you need to add. Yeah, that's it. The merge happened. Now you type ls, you can see the changes done by Jerry and also the changes done by Tom. In the other words, you can see the changes in the Jerry's branch and also the change in the master. You can see all changes together right now. This is how you can do the merging. So now what Jerry can do, uh, he can switch himself to the master branch and he can do a pull operation. Then he will get the, of course, Tom did not do a push operation. After doing the merging, Tom want to do a push operation, right? To make sure that both changes are committed to the master. Git push origin master. Now Jerry can simply run the git pull command on the master branch. He will see all the changes. He can see the Paytm file and also the readme file modifications. So this way, developer can create new branches whenever they want to work on some feature enhancement or some. This is not typically applied whenever you want to do some bug fix. Let's say there is some problem which a developer want to fix it, and it's a small fix. It wouldn't take much time. He will directly make the modification and directly make the commit to the master. But if this will take time, it is some feature enhancement that he is expect it will take time. What he can actually do is he can create a new branch and work on that branch. When he is done, he can merge the branch with the master. So that is a common practice that is followed. So I will show you how Git would take care of the conflict. Let's say what I am going to do is, first I will run a pull command, git pull origin master. I am running that on Jerry's laptop as well as Tom's laptop. Now both are up to date. Now Tom is going to make some modification readme file. In the last line he is putting something new change by Tom. I'm going to save this particular file. I'm going to commit it. Git add readme, git commit -m, and he is doing the push. So the change have been pushed to the remote repository. At the same time, Jerry was also modifying the same file. He's adding some new content. He's editing the same file at the same time. He's also going to do the git add operation. And he is going to do the git commit operation. Okay. Now he want to do a push. Before he do the push, he want to do a pull operation always. That's what he would prefer to do. Whenever you want to do a push operation, do a pull first, git pull origin master. So Jerry want to do a pull operation before he do the push. He made change to the readme file and he already committed it. So he is now going to do a pull operation. Whenever he do the pull operation, it would say conflict, right? Whenever git detected that the same file is being pulled, is already modified and committed, then it would result in a conflict. That is the error you have got here. It says the automatic merge has failed. It will try to automatically merge it at some times. Basically, the change done by Tom, done by Jerry would be merged together inside the single file. But this time that did not work out. It resulted in actual conflict. What Git do in that particular case is it will modify the readme file with changes done by Tom and changes done by Jerry. Both change would be there in the readme file. So open the readme file. You can see there's a conflict. And over here you can see the line added by Jerry. And this is the line added by Tom. And you can also see the commit ID done by Tom. So what you need to do is you need to manually fix these issues. Sometimes you want to merge both the lines in whatever way you want it. You fix it. You save this particular file. First execute a git reset command. Git reset will reset your latest commit, but it will not modify your file. The working copy will not be modified. You will simply get reset back to the previous table commit, but your readme file would be still there. It would not be modified. It has the change which you already merged. Now Jerry will do a push. He will do a commit first, followed by a push. Git add, git commit -m, then modified readme file, and he is going to do a push operation this time, which will succeed. Everything is up to date. Is everything up to date? Yeah. Let me do a pull up first. Yeah, it's all looking good. So Tom also can do the same thing. Git pull origin master, which would actually, yeah. Now new change by Tom came here. Open the readme file. This line. Mm-hmm. Fix the conflict. Run the command git reset. You are reset back to the previous commit. Run the command git log to make sure that the commit is reset back. Or maybe you can reset back to one previous commit. Git reset this commit. Okay. Now run the git pull command. Git add readme. Sorry, I am trying to do the push to the Paytm branch. Sorry about that. Come on. Okay, you got it right. I will try again. Git reset, git reset, git reset, git pull origin master. There's a conflict, which is fine in the readme file. I'm going to fix it. It is fixed. Now I am going to run the git reset command. Git add readme. Git commit -m. Do the push. Okay, he rejected. My current branch is behind. Yes, that is expected. So I run a git pull command first, which will again result in error. Now I do a git add readme. Fix this. Git add readme. Git commit. Git commit. Push. Yeah, this is how you can fix the conflicts. First, you do a pull operation. The conflict would be automatically merged. You can then manually edit the line. Sometimes Git will try to do the merging without you having to make any kind of edits. For example, a blank line is modified with a line by Tom on second line. On the 100th line there was another blank line which Jerry had put some content to it. So in such situations, Git will automatically merge the file without you having to edit it manually. Otherwise, if there is a conflict, same line are modified by different people, what Git will automatically do is it will do the merging, but the file will be in a less than symbol. It would put the change in the remote repository. In the greater than symbol, it would show you the change in the local repository. So you need to manually remove those lines and arrange the lines accordingly how you want it. Then you can do a pull operation, and then your changes can be committed and pushed. Got it? So this is how you can the developers would take care of the conflict if occurred. And always it's a good practice that you always perform the pull operation first before you could perform a push operation, right? Because all developer keep on making changes, so you are going to make some modification. First you make sure that you have the latest code, do a pull operation, make the changes, then do the pushing. Okay, so the same thing, same you don't have any extra assignments for Git. Whatever that we had done so far, you follow the same thing. And we will now discuss some best practices in branching in Git. So where does your role come into? We have been talking about Git. We have seen how the developers would work, right? Where does your role come into picture? Actually, these are not something you need to do. These are typically whatever we had discussed is generally done by developers. So just think about a release process. You want to do a release. What is mean by a release process? There are lot of code change which developers are doing will come into the remote repository, the Git repository. The change in this remote repository, that is a Git repository, need to be copied into your production. Either you can copy from the master branch, or you can copy from the Paytm branch, or you can copy from a development branch, or you can copy from a production branch. Whatever, from some branch in the remote repository you want to copy the code into your production infrastructure. That is when you can actually say your code is live, the change done by developer is actually available to the market. So the branching plays a good role when you perform the release. The release is something that you are responsible for, not developers. As a DevOps engineer, it's you who would be taking care of the release process. So during the release process, you want to determine which branch you want to use, how the merging should happen. Did the change done by the developer is already moved into a particular branch so that it can now directly be released. So there are many things that you need to take care. So let us see. uh, so always you have a master, right? You have a master. In any cases, this is the default branch. And I told you developers can make commit to the master branch, but typically in organization it is not into the master branch developer would do the commits. Instead, from the master they will create another branch called development. This is the master branch, and from the master branch it will create another branch called development. This is the main development branch to which developers will do the commit. Whatever change that they want to make, they make the change, commit into the development branch always. I mean, there is no strict definitions. This is how you should use it, but this is how normally companies uses Git when they do the branching. This is how it is typically done. There would be a development branch. and there would be a different branch for production, and there would be a different branch for staging and everything. And generally whatever change developers are making, they all will go into the development branch. And again, some developer want to work on a separate branch, they will create the new branch from the development branch. They start the new branch from here, then they will do the commits inside here, and later when they are done, they will merge it with the master. So basically, and in the meantime, the other developer can make direct change into the development branch. So it's always the development branch that is getting changes done by developers. And in every companies, typically there would be a guy, there would be a project manager or somebody or a release manager who would decide at what time you want to perform the release. Maybe they will mark certain point here, this is when I am going to do a release, this is the time to do a release. What they will do is they will create a read only branch from this point of time, call it production prod branch, right? The prod branch is generally read only branch. What it means is developer cannot do the commit into this particular branch, because basically this branch contains all the verified changes done so far, and I am going to do the release from this particular point of time. So in that case, I created a new branch from there. That means this is the branch that I'm going to do the release, and no more changes are allowed into this particular branch. That's why this branch is generally read only branch. You cannot do a commit into this particular branch. So the advantage of creating a new branch is that you don't need to stop your developers in working on some other issues. Maybe they are already working on some other change request, and they need to continuously work on that. Maybe they need to continuously create a new branch and later merge it. So their development workflow will not be affected, but this change, whatever they are doing, will not go in this particular release. They need to wait until you do the next release. You are doing this release right now, and whatever change before this particular point would be there when you do the release. And basically whatever change were done by developers so far will become available to the market once you did this release. But these changes are done after the release, and along while you are doing the release, developer can keep on working on the development branch. That's okay, because the release is done from the production, this branch. And once you did a release, probably this development branch, at the point where you did the release, you would merge that with the master and you will tag it. So generally that is what master is being used for. Master will contain these tags. Whenever you do a release, the merging will happen and these points would be tagged. So basically the master branch will contain only the important points where your software undergo a major change. So only those points would be tracked in the master. Generally the small change which developers are doing, small code modification and small bug fixes and feature enhancement, whatever work developers are doing, are typically done in the development branch, uh, so that it does not affect the uh, other branches. So this is a good practice, which will make sure that the development branch you can leave it to people, let them do whatever they want. But in the master branch you have a better coordinated uh, tags. The major changes you can see in the master branch, and making a separate branch for production and making it read only will make sure that the integrity is not affected. The last minute changes are stopped by creating a separate branch when you do a release process. So this is a good coding practice. So if somebody asks you, this could be a sure interview question also, how you do the branching for Git. So you can explain this. This is how generally companies does, people do, right? And also there are some hosted repositories. It is not mandatory that you have to set up Git of your own, like we did. What we did, we actually set up Git from the scratch. We installed Git. The remote repository is something that we have set up. Tom's laptop, Jerry's laptop, it's all ours. What some people does is, actually many people, more than 50% of the companies, what they do is they will not set up their own Git repository. Instead, what they would do is they will purchase a remote repository from a third party. For example, GitHub, and they will give you the URL. They will give you the URL, so the developer can add this URL as the origin. Then they will do the push operations into that origin. That's what individual developers can do. And this is remote repository is not something that you have direct access to. This is a hosted repository which you purchase from a third party provider. For example, github.com. Github.com is a Git provider. From them, github.com or bitbucket.com, these are different hosted Git repositories. From them you can purchase Git repository. Then you can do your push pull clone operations into that remote repository, which is managed by a third party. That is also a very good option, and they offer a lot of benefits. Apart from you set up your own GitHub would offer a lot of benefits, which we are going to talk about when we learn Jenkins. Actually, we are not done with Git yet. We are actually going to learn more about Git when we start with Jenkins. Jenkins is our one of the most important topic that we are going to cover next week. That would include your project also. The third project would be on Jenkins, where you want to build a continuous integration system. So Git is one of the core component in that continuous integration, which we will discuss in detail. And github.com is what we are going to use. We can use our own Git repository. So in our course, what we learned about Git is we can actually set up your own remote repository in your infrastructure, but there are options. You can buy this remote repository from a third party, for example github.com, and set it up. So that is something we will discuss. And we have one more topic to finish, Apache AND, which we will do on Tuesday. Tuesday is going to be our next continuation class, right? In the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, it's going to be Python programming, which is not a related topic. So continuation of today's class is going to be on Tuesday. So just make sure that you are pretty good with Git. You don't have any assignment. You can actually continue working on your existing assignment in Nagios and Chef if you haven't done that yet. And also make sure that before you start with and make sure that you have a good idea on Git. Do whatever practice that we had done in our class. Do that from your side also. And on Wednesday, Tuesday we need for and. From Wednesday we will start with Jenkins, and we will try to finish everything in that weekend itself. Actually, we will take classes in the next weekend also to complete Jenkins and our project, and the interview tips, everything we will cover in the weekend. That means 10th and 11th. That is my plan. If there is any change, I will let you know. So by 11th of Feb, we will finish our training. That is the plan. And yeah, any questions?
Basil, do we have any class tomorrow? I mean,
Yes, we have Python classes tomorrow. Tomorrow
it's
means
already over, right?
okay. If you have already taken Python classes, you don't have classes. Those who did
I
not take
mean,
Python,
last week,
last week
I'm
was
not
shell
sure.
scripting. It was shell scripting
I
last
didn't
week.
get.
It was shell scripting last week. This week it is
Okay.
Python programming.
Fine. And the other thing, Docker introduction video was missing from the, I mean, Google Drive.
Right, I know. I will upload a backup video into the drive from my previous class.
Okay.
We have a backup
And
video for that.
Python, you already gave the Python class, I think, starting, I remember. Am I right?
Actually, not for all of you. Some of you did not take Python.
Okay.
That's why we are.
Fine. Thank you.
Basil?
Yeah.
Balraj here.
Hi, Balraj.
See, I have a question. Okay, like Git is Git and GitHub and GitLab. Like everything is got complete, or anything is still there?
GitHub and GitLab we haven't done yet. GitLab, I would give it as an assignment. Actually, it is a Git with graphical interface, just like GitHub. But GitLab is something that you set up of your own. GitHub is something that you purchase from a third party. That are the main difference between them. Both give you a graphical interface where you can create the repositories, you can import your SSH keys, everything that you can do in a graphical interface.
So that include our training, right?
Yeah, that is included in our training, and that we will cover.
Yeah. Apart from this, yeah.
That's the plan. I think. Yeah, go ahead.
So, sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I do. See, so in this, no, like stash files. What you've told me yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
And that stash file, like yeah, is it possible to add one more stash files like that? Is it? We should create only one stash file and then do our what do you say, emergency work, and then we'll commit this emergency that come in, and again we'll pull that stash, right?
You can put any number of.
I
Yeah, I got your question.
uh,
Yeah, I got your question. To the stash.
hmm. Hello.
Yes, I'm just
Hello.
that. Yes, Balraj, I can hear you. Just hold on. Okay, through the
Okay.
stash, you cannot really do that.
Oh, done.
Stash is more like a queue where you can put your unmodified files. When you perform the commit, it would be the file that you are committing. You got it right. So let's assume this. You made
Okay.
some change. You stashed it. Those change would become available into the stash. Then you are making some more changes. You stash it again. Stash will update it with the more content belonging to different files. So your ultimate goal is you want to commit these files into the Git repository. So when you perform the commit, you have to split the file, whichever file you want to commit.
Okay.
Stash, there is no option like a stash this much first. In nothing like that.
Okay. All right. So one more question.
Yeah.
Like I have listed out like 4 questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
See, in that like first time we have created like git remote, then origin, then something like that, no?
Yeah.
Add origin, something.
Yes.
In that, what is remote and what is origin? Like, what are those two? Still no, I didn't get it
Remote
actually. What are those
is
two?
to indicate that you are adding a remote repository. Origin is the name for the remote repository that you're adding.
I can change the name of both, right? Like remote to something and
No,
remote to.
indicates that you are adding a remote repository. It is not a name. It is a it,
Uh-huh.
right. Basically, Git.
Understood.
Yeah. So
So what about origin? Origin can be changed, right?
you can
Origin is a name which you are giving to remote
give it
repository.
to
Is
the
it?
remote repository. The URL that you are adding, the particular URL will get the name origin. Git at the
Okay.
rate localhost colon project name. That is your origin.
Mhm.
So
Okay. So I mean, when we are creating the project name, right? So is it like a project dot git, like something like that only you have to give it, or anything like?
any
I
name
mean,
doesn't matter.
any name. Okay. And how to check the files, like how can I check what are the files? See, in the Git repository, right? Like for example, 4 members are there.
Mhm.
All right, 4 developers are pushing the code to repository. I mean, Git repository. So how to check that? Like, what are the files which are present in that Git repository without pulling it?
Git the list of files you can get it from some fetch command. Git fetch origin. No, I think on this one. Git ls remote. It's a command called ls remote, which would show you this is the branches. Okay, I think there is no such option you have. Git archive, git clone. Let's see, git ls remote, git at the rate localhost. Git. No, you cannot see the files actually. But one thing that you can do is you can go to the repository, go to the project.git folder, run the git log command. You can see the list of commits. Then each commit you can show. You can run the git show command. You can see what are the files. Apart from that, there is no options. Okay, there is something git archive. Okay, one other thing that you can do is there's a command called archive in git, which will archive the entire remote repository into a tar file. So create that archive, then take a look at the list. So that you can do. You can run the tar-t command, which would actually show you the list of files in the archive. There is no direct git command which would display you the content in the remote repository. No. This is one way.
Okay.
Archive the entire remote repository, then look at the archive. Or what was the other thing which I showed you? The git log command. Git log and git show command would show you the files in each commit.
Okay. So is it possible to pull any, I mean, particular file which is pushed by any, I mean, any developer, a particular developer? For example, Tom has pulled two files. Okay, I mean, push 2 files to the repository, which is text1 text2.txt and text2.txt. Okay, I want to pull only text1.txt. Is it possible to? I mean, is it possible?
Yes, I think git run on work. Okay, sorry. Log into Jerry. Go to Jerry repo. Git checkout. Yeah, you can run this command. Git checkout. The file name will actually download the single file.
Okay. Git checkout. Right. Okay, I got it. Okay. Today I'll go through the video once again, and if I have any doubts, I'll come back.
Sure.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. Bye.
Thanks, Balraj. So, anyone else? Any questions? Okay. So, continue whatever things that we had done in Git. Just practice it from your side. We will continue from Tuesday on the Git topics. And those who did not take Python classes, you have Python classes tomorrow and day after. That means Saturday and Sunday, 7 a.m. IST. We have Python classes. The first class, that means Saturday class, would start within 9 hours, right? In the next 9 hours, you have the next class if you haven't taken Python classes. Yeah.
Basu, just a quick question. I mean, when we make some changes in the file, we'll keep it in the staging area, right? So, can we, what is the location in the Unix for a staging area? I mean, where can we find staging area? File system, I mean.
You cannot find that in the file system. There is
Okay.
a folder called .git. This is your repository. In the working copy, you would find a folder called .git. This is your local repository, and inside here it is actually saved as objects, which are nothing but some binary files that you cannot read.
Okay. This is in the local repo, right?
In the local
This location.
repo .git folder.
Okay, okay.
That is your local repository.
So when we pull it from the other, I mean, when we pull it from the other place, or let's say when we push it to main repo, can we see the files in the repo, or do we have only those things, all objects or this thing,
No,
binary files?
you cannot see the files. They are again the binaries in the remote repository.
Okay, so
You need to
again, when you
always
pull
use
it
the
to
git
local,
command. You need to always use git show or git log or git status. You have to always use a git command to see the files.
okay,
If the file got added to staging, you can run the command git status -s. Or you want to see what changes are done in the previous commit, you can run the git show command. So it has to be through a git command you can see these things. It is not saved in a file system.
okay.
Yeah. Okay, cool then. So Yashwant called me after the class. We will discuss. Thank you all.
That's it.
And
Harsha
yeah,
here.
yes, Sasha.
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead,
was
Harsha.
going blog in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was going to a blog in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
There was some words like infrastructure orchestration and infrastructure as a code and Kubernetes.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain these words?
Kubernetes is a Docker
Means
orchestration tool. It's for
What is infrastructure orchestration?
it's more like if you have multiple Docker hosts, how you would organize it,
Okay.
right? How you would manage the containers which are spread across multiple Docker host machine is what container orchestration is. The infrastructure as code is nothing but the best example is Chef that you have learned. In Chef, we are doing the same thing. We are managing an infrastructure as a code.
Right? Infrastructure as a code.
Yes.
Can we use this Python also, right, for infrastructure?
No, that would not be the reason why these tools exist. Reason why DevOps is there, because it's not possible to manage the things using your custom scripts. If you have to manage a infrastructure that contains thousands of machines, you cannot write a program from the scratch to build and manage that infrastructure. It's not feasible. That is the reason these tools exist, which facilitate this infrastructure as code concept. So infrastructure as code, that's the meaning. I mean, rather than managing the infrastructure all of you are on, you put all the configuration in a single place, like a code. That's what you do using Chef. You create the cookbooks, you create the recipes and everything.
Yeah.
You write down how your infrastructure want to look like. You write them down.
Okay.
Basil, I mean, can't we use Chef and Nigris for deploying Docker? I mean, containers and monitoring containers.
We can, we can do.
Okay.
Actually, all these tools can be connected from one another. Using Chef, you can create a Docker host, run a command to create a Docker container, right? Anything. And you would even get some plugin, some Docker plugin in Nagios. I mean, in Chef, using which you can manage a Docker host.
One more thing, Basil. Kubernetes is a part of Docker or it is an independent tool?
It is an independent tool which can be used for the Docker orchestration.
Okay. Why? Okay. Yeah. What is the main use of the tool to orchestrate
Yeah, basically,
configuration?
that's what I said. You have multiple containers which are spread across a lot of Docker host machine. You need to manage this container, a lot of container operation you want to perform. You want to manage the configuration inside these containers, what software need to be installed in each container, right? All these things you can coordinate in a single place using Kubernetes. That's what the orchestration means. That is the what Kubernetes is used for.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. I think